Good afternoon and welcome to Pinhole Quilting. My name is Liz, my husband Pete is back behind the camera. Were you here last week? I can't even remember.
No, I wasn't.
No, you weren't. You weren't.
I was watching remotely until it cut out. Yes.
So we have the timing of the people who do the maintenance where we are. It's run by Smart Cut. So they didn't come this last week. Smart Cut didn't come. We had a power cut instead, which was very unfortunate. I was mid-flow and suddenly we got no lights, no nothing, no computer, no internet, absolutely nothing. So Mark and I had a little chat for a while and then I said, well, we could just record this. We'll just record this and then I will put it together later. And that's what we did. But of course I couldn't do any live demos. So we've not had that timing before. We have had a few power cuts here. We do get them, don't we? Which is a good reminder that if you've got a long arm, that you should unplug it from the mains. So I went round turning all the machines off so that when it came on, and it kept surging, literally just kept going on, going off again, little beeps. So if you've got a long arm, you should always unplug it from the main supply and have it through a surge protector when it's running. Very important for your warranty, your Handi Quilter warranty, isn't it, Pete?
There are actually some thunderstorms forecast for this weekend in England and Scotland, so make sure it's unplugged.
Yeah, we don't get quite the amount of static that they seem to get in the States. I mean, when I've been to Utah for the training and stuff, it's pretty fierce at certain times of the year. When it's very, very dry, you get lots of static as well. So yeah, we don't get too much of that for electronics. Static isn't very good either. So we are getting our ducks in a row for Festival of Quilts. There's lots of things obviously to prepare and we're well on schedule, aren't we, Pete?
Yes.
We are.
Only a very slight hesitation. Yes, we are.
Yeah, we're fine. It's going to be fine. No, I mean, we've done it before. We can do it again. It's a lot. There's a lot to organise. We have 2 big lorries full of pallets and we have to set it up over 2 days and then we dismantle it in, was it 3.5 hours last year or something like that?
There was 3 hours, I think.
3 hours. 3 hours. Going like the clappers. Getting 17 long arms onto pallets. It's quite a big job. We're very grateful that Mark was here to help us last year because he did a great job, didn't he, Pete?
He did
a really good job. Very useful person to organise the logistics. So we were talking last time about a way of meeting up with other Handi Quilter owners at Festival of Quilts. So I thought this would be a bit of fun. It's not the gin bar next to us. It's the Prosecco Bar. So if you're into your Prosecco, then it's a good place to meet. It's right next to our stand. How handy is that? How handy. I feel that our customers will be happy to be at the Prosecco Bar, and if not, then they can just have their fizzy water, like me. And we've got badges. I've ordered badges. For those customers who are Handi Quilter owners, come by the stand, pick up your badge that says, I love my Handi Quilter. I think they're quite nice. I hope they're nice. I did a straw poll on a few customers, and out of the 3 customers that I asked, one even had suggested badges. She emailed and said, you were talking about, a way of working out who's who. Why don't we have badges? So I took Heather up on that. Thank you very much, Heather. Much appreciated your input. Then I asked your very good friend, Sharon, and also Pauline, who works for us. They're both Handi Quilter owners. Both of them have got Amaras. And I asked them, and Sharon was a little less positive about the badge thing. So if you're not into the badge thing, not a problem. But if you are, if you'd like to have a badge, we will have badges available for our Handi Quilter owners and you'll be able to wear them.
And spot all the other Handi Quilter owners. That's the key thing.
And what? And spot the other. This is it. You could be walking around the Festival of Quilts and you could just bump into somebody randomly and go, you're another Handi Quilter owner. I mean, Pete and I know a lot of people that are Handi Quilter owners, but it's going to help us too, because we don't know everybody. And we might not remember everybody. Apologies. So it's one of those situations where people know us, but we don't always remember who you are. And we'll be desperately going, oh gosh, who was that? Have they got a Moxie? Have they got an Amara? Whatever, we'll know that you're a Handi Quilter owner. Plus, we're going to have some other goodies as well. So come by. And we will give you a badge. Okay. We've got some Handi Quilter owners who'll be demonstrating on our stand. So we're looking forward to seeing those folks again. So that's Carol and Carolyn. I've probably missed somebody else. We'll have Abigail and Linda will be teaching in the classroom and doing demos as well. So there'll be lots of people to ask questions of about Handi Quilter, about the classes and, you know, all those kind of things. It's a good way to find out whether you want to go the Handi Quilter route. So let's just talk a little bit also about, I'm going to do this, the poll thing as well for the thing I mentioned a couple of weeks ago about entering a quilt show. So Festival of Quilts and the other quilt shows we're attending, so that's the Belfast Quilt Show and also Harrogate. And Harrogate and Malvern are typical of those Grosvenor shows where they are dependent upon entries into the quilt show. And this is something that we've thought, we haven't discussed it with Grosvenor at all, but we thought that it would be really good if we could encourage others to enter these quilt shows. And that was why my title was Celebrate the Quilt, because it's how nice it is. You know, when I've got a quilt here, I do love to show it to people. I can't deny it. And when people come for demonstrations, sometimes they bring a quilt that they've just made. And I love it when they do that. And it gives me an insight into the kind of quilter that they are. And the other thing is that when we have those show and tells, and I have got a backlog of show and tell to post up, it's you can see the joy and the pride of the person who's made that quilt. And I mean, that's what we should be celebrating, but not necessarily just bringing them to our showroom. You know, let's put them up in those quilt shows and let's show other people what we're capable of. I mean, when we do those classes, Pete, like we did with Tulane last year, and I think it was Jackie and also Jenny Humphrey brought over the quilts they'd done as a result of Linda's class that they'd been on previously.
Yes.
Fabulous. Absolutely fabulous. And it's just so wonderful to see, and great for Linda, because it is a really, you know, you feel chuffed to bits that this person has achieved this, because partly, I mean, obviously it's their input, and if they didn't apply themselves, it wouldn't happen either. But because of the input of people like Linda, an award-winning, world-class quilter, they have been able to achieve far more than they ever thought that they would. So this is why we want to sort of help guide people, including me, because I've never entered a quilt show. I've had my quilts on display a couple of times, but I've never actually entered a competitive quilt show. About time I did, I think. About time I did. You know, put your money where you, whatever. So that's what we're going to do. Look out for the poll. We're doing Belfast. We're delighted to be able to come to the Belfast show this year. We couldn't make it last year because it clashed. 7th to the 9th of September this year. We'll be over in Belfast at the, what's it called? I forgot the name of it. I've just done it on the website today.
I'll check.
Can't remember. Rubbish memory. It's a really well-known name. The name of the hotel.
Yeah.
Stormont. There we go.
Stormont Hotel.
Stormont Hotel. I knew it was a really famous name. Stormont Hotel. So it's at the Stormont Hotel, the 7th to the 9th of September, 10 a.m. to 5 p.m, run by quiltfair.com. That's Yvonne McTammany. Is it McTammany? It is McTammany, isn't it?
I think it is, yeah.
Yeah. Sorry, Yvonne, I'm just not very good on saying your name there. It's going to be great, because we have not been able to come to the show over in the Dublin show. It was discontinued sort of after, you know, as a result of COVID, and then, gosh, Brexit's not helped, has it? So we are delighted to be able to do the Northern Ireland show, and we hope that we see lots of our customers. We've got a really lovely bunch of customers up there, and it's always fun when they come over here. Well, I'm really looking forward to coming over and seeing you. We've also got Harrogate, as I said, that's at the end of September. So we've got a busy old time, August and September. Now, the thing that I started discussing, should we say some hellos, Pete, rather than me just doing a monologue?
Let's say some hellos. Right, in order of appearance, Karen in Anglesey.
Oh, okay. Yes, Karen is hot off the press. I think, Karen, you're taking it over from Val Brooks.
Christine in Cumbria.
Christine, we are so looking forward to seeing you.
Not many sleeps now, Christine.
No, and you should have got, I think you'd have got my email today.
Carol up in lovely County Durham.
Yes, Carol, who we will be seeing at Festival of Quilts.
Michelle, I don't know Michelle Pullen.
Michelle Pullen. Yes. I know that name. Michelle.
Do you?
Yes.
Sorry, Michelle. There's Margaret in North Carolina, who often watches on a Friday afternoon.
North Carolina. Beautiful North Carolina.
Maggie in Swindon.
Yep.
Trisha.
Hi, Trisha. Hope you're well.
Chris Hillier.
Yep.
Leslie Gregg.
Chris Hillier, whose quilt is behind me. Thank you, Chris, for decorating our showroom. It's beautiful quilts you've got.
Leslie in Tyne Weir.
Yep, Leslie. Hi, Leslie and Charles up in Tyne Weir.
Rachel Shaw.
Yes. Hi, Rachel. I wasn't that close to you. Mould this week.
Graham.
Mould. Who?
Graham.
Graham. Fantastic. We'll see you at festival at some point, I know.
Jill Pennell.
Jill. Yes. You know that thread, Pete, that you sent, that you picked? I think you picked it, didn't you? I didn't pick it, Jill. Pete did it.
Yes, what about it?
Fantastic. She loves it. She sent me, just before, when we were having lunch, she sent me a WhatsApp with pictures of it. I have to show you. We've been a bit busy over lunch, since lunch. We've been discussing this. Jill, your quilt, the quilt looks fantastic. I look forward to seeing it. Hopefully we'll see it at Festival of Quilts. It's on somebody's stand. But Pete did it. He's very good on colour.
Here we are. There's Linda in Ireland.
Hello, Rain?
Linda. I don't think we know Linda in Ireland, but welcome.
Linda in Ireland. I wonder if are you coming to the
Are you coming to Festival of Quilts?
Linda's coming to Festival of Quilts?
No, I was asking the question.
Oh, Pete's asking you a question.
Are you coming to Festival of Quilts? If not, Linda, hopefully we'll see you in Belfast.
Yes.
We have Greta online.
Hello, Greta.
Christine says, yes, 4 more sleeps.
4 more sleeps. Amazing.
Oh, Michelle from Cheltenham, nearly an Avanti owner. Yes, of course. Sorry, Michelle. Yes.
That's right.
Yeah, we haven't got a date in the diary yet, have we?
I said.
Yes.
I knew that. I know that name. Got your machine over there.
Good. Linda's going to Belfast. Brilliant.
Yay!
Excellent.
Great.
Okay, we'll see you then.
Linda, we look forward to seeing you there. We'll be doing some demos. We'll have the machines. You can do a test drive, whatever you like. It'll be good to see you there. Fantastic. Along with all our other lovely Handi Quilter owners. In fact, I've got one of the lovely Handi Quilter owners, Kate. We've got her little framed thing that says Pinhole Quilting. It's the Yeats quote, rather.
Oh, yeah.
Quilt quote. Yeah. Do you want to get it?
Have we?
It's in the frame. It's on the big long arm. It's just on the big long arm. The 30-inch long arm.
Ah.
The old long arm. The 1920-something long arm. It's on there. And Pete will read it out. Pinhole Quilting. Kate gave us that. Kate from Northern Ireland, who's just lovely. She brought it over one time. And I treasure this. I do. It's beautiful because it's framed and it's a little rainbow and it says Pinhole Quilting. There are no strangers here, only friends you haven't yet met. W.B. Yeats. There you go. Fantastic. Thank you, Kate. And it's true, isn't it? Because when we do these, when we have the shows or when we have the classes, great friendships are made as a result of meeting up. And that sort of idea of community is a really important one. So when you're communicating with other Handi Quilter owners, there's a really lovely sense of community, and I think it's something that we really love, that element of what we do. So I'm going to carry on from last week. So last week I was trying without power to describe between the long arm, which is not necessarily stand up. I hope people can see that I'm not standing and I'm sitting down. There's not a lot of difference because I'm not the tallest person in the world. Or you can sit down because it's a movable machine. The real important word is the movable, because you can sit at a paddle stool, you can stand on a box, like I do sometimes with some of our very tall customers whose frames are set so high that I can't actually see. So that's a movable machine. And then we've got the sit downs, but they're not sit downs anymore, they're called stationary, because we can sit at them and we can stand at them. We've got one customer who bought the Capri last year, I think it was last year. She goes like the clappers. She goes absolutely 100%, 2,200 stitches per minute on the Capri. She doesn't sit down, she stands up. So this is the thing, is we've got a movable machine and we've got a stationary machine. And what I'd like to do is on this session, just run through with you, and I'm going to do, I feel like there's an infographic needing to be written on this. I haven't quite got the format for it in my head or on paper. And the infographic would be, what can you do more easily on a movable machine than you can on a stationary, and vice versa. Because when you're looking at a longarm, and the number of times I've had conversations with people who are really lost as to what they're looking at and what the terminology is, and it takes a while to distill all the information that's out there on videos and YouTube and Instagram and our website and other people's websites. Just look at ours. And if you look at all these bits and pieces of information, you sometimes just get a bit lost. So let's just run through a few of those things. So Pete, can I borrow you? Mm-hmm. So let's just talk about the physics of it. Sounds technical, doesn't it? No, just the way it moves. So we've got a movable machine here. This is the Moxie, okay? Excuse me. And the Moxie is a 15-inch throat space movable machine. So it moves on a carriage, and it can go, on the carriage, it can go front to back. This is the Y. It's the Y, isn't it? Because we know that because you're going away and towards you. That's why it's the Y, the U. And it measures how fast it's being moved by an encoder on the carriage. This is the encoder. And if it's not engaged, it doesn't work. So that's how it takes a physical movement and translates it to I think it's a pulse, probably, isn't it? It's probably a pulse. And that is transmitted into the machine, and it tells the machine how fast it's moving in this direction. And there is a similar encoder on the X crosswise, goes across. And there are wheels here that run on this track, and that enables us to go in any direction that we want. Because those 4 wheels are basically just moving it around. And the machine will stay at a steady number of stitches per inch because it knows how fast it's being moved. It's a very direct relationship between movement and the machine speed to regulate the stitch length.
So all the Handi Quilter movable machines move as easily as that. They all have the encoder system that is a mechanical system, and the stitch regulation with the mechanical system is really perfect. Yeah, it is. It's a very good encoder system. There's slightly different encoders on this machine to the Mara will show you in a second. Now the thing to note is 15 inches of throat space, so we're talking about from this upright to the needle, 15 inches, it will always lose an amount because you've got to have your quilt. This is the take-up rail, this one at the back here, under the free arm. And then this is called the idler bar, the dead bar, the lazy bar, whatever you like to call it. Some people call it different things. There's at least 3 names. This just keeps everything level as you progress through the quilt because the quilt sandwich is built up on this rail here. Now, as that builds up, depending on how thick your wadding is and how big your quilt is, that could be quite puffy if it's a puffy quilt. You might have 2 layers of wadding. It's going to get pretty big. So you have to subtract from that 15 inches enough to take account of that build-up of wadding, because by the time you get to the end, it's going to be a lot less. So, I mean, we estimate 4 inches. It could be a bit more if you've got a very puffy quilt. So in reality, it's about 10 to 11 inches that you can actually stitch. If you were doing
the quilting from the back that would come on in a moment, we suggest that you looked at pantographs under 10 inches so that you're not cutting it so fine it's going to be difficult for placement. And you don't want to be faffing around with it too much. So that is a movable machine, very easy to control. We have a number of customers who actually like doing what I do, which is like one-handed, and it means that you can get a connection to the quilt. You can quilt with one hand. Let me just tighten this up. With one hand on the quilt, and when you're doing very, very fine micro work, sometimes people like to do that. Hilde van Schadenberg, our Handi Quilter ambassador in the Netherlands, Hilde does all of her quilting with her hand on the quilt. And it's like it's a connection. It's like when you're doing free motion quilting on a stationary machine. So that's how this moves. Let's now look at the carriages in a bit more detail. So we've got a couple of the carriages out over here. This one here, this is an Amara on a Pro Stitcher carriage. So let's just look at what we've got. This is the base carriage that you get with a non-computerized system that fits onto a studio frame. It's got all the wheels, it's got the encoder, this is a little rubberized wheel, and this plugs into the machine. And basically, in fact, that one has been unplugged. Let me just plug that in, I'll show you. That plugs into the machine like that. So that has the X and the Y encoders. So this is the Y encoder here. So these carriages they just run so smoothly. It's aluminium, it's a really nice plastic wheels here. They're very smooth, nice and easy to keep clean. So that's the non-computerized carriage. Then we've got the same carriage, but when you get a Pro Stitcher Premium for the Amara, you actually get this whole unit. But really what it is this bit has been added to that base carriage. This is upside down, but notice how all of the motors and all of the gears and everything else in here is all nice and safely enclosed away from any little fingers. It's all CE and UK certifying agency, UKCAA. That's the new regulation regarding electrical and electronic certification. This is all UKCA certified. In fact, on the new Handi Quilters, it shows those stickers. So it's got cogs here. This cog here, which is on the X-axis, it fits beautifully into this flexi rack. So it's a very direct movement. And then we've got the other cog is here on this side, and it goes on the underneath of the machine. So anything you want to add to that, Pete?
That's the mechanism that has to move the machine. So instead of it being free motion where you're moving the machine, you're plugging in a design into the computerized system, this is the mechanics that actually then physically moves the machine for you.
Yep.
And everything is built in, everything is safe, there aren't any open belts.
No.
Or anything like that. And yeah.
That's right.
That's how it operates.
That's how it operates.
A lot of people forget that as well as the tablet computer that goes on the front of the machine, where you choose your design and you plug it in, you actually have to have something that moves the machine to stitch it out.
That's right.
And that's where it sits.
Now this is the interesting thing about Pro Stitcher, where the tablets have changed a lot in terms of technology, and we're now able to run really complex Pro Stitcher. We've still got people running the original Pro Stitcher on the original version 1 carriages, which had levers on them. They didn't have like an electronic, this is an electronic engagement and disengagement. I think this is version 6, this carriage. So over the years, they've improved the carriage, but people are still using the old carriages with pretty new, if not brand new, tablets. And that says a lot about how they build these. Really, really good. I love Pro Stitcher. Now, Pro Stitcher Lite works in the Moxie carriage very much the same way, but the difference is that when you get a Moxie, you just put that tray in yourself. That's called a Pro Stitcher tray. So Pro Stitcher Lite, you put it into your own Moxie carriage. So we've got, let's just run through then on these movable systems. What differentiates between these two types of machines? What can you do on these movable machines? because this came up in a conversation last week. You know, what's free motion quilting? What does free motion quilting mean? What does edge to edge mean? What does quilting from the back mean? All of these sort of terms. So when we are using a movable machine like this, free motion quilting is very much easier. This is more akin to when you're writing, say your name, you're writing your name, you're moving your hand over a fixed piece of paper. So I could write, as many people do at our quilt shows, they'll write their names. Sometimes they write other things, which we wish they hadn't written. But most of the time they'll write their name, and that's fine. And that's free motion quilting. And it enables you to get a lot of creativity and individual identity of your own quilting and your own quilting style through free motion quilting. And it's a lot easier, quite frankly, it is a lot easier for most people, and I'm not going to say for everybody because it is not for everybody, most people find it easier to write like that, movable pen, fixed paper, than it is to have a fixed pen and move the paper. Even to write your name is quite tricky. Which is why when you've got a domestic machine, most people go, oh gosh, free motion quilting is so hard. But actually, if you have one of these movable machines, it's a lot easier. All right. So this is the difference, is that we're moving the machine. Now, you might say, well, I'm not crazy. I can't draw the top. So there are ways of getting designs and helping you to become that creative person that you've always aspired to be, that you feel like your art teacher said you aren't, so that you can actually achieve really lovely results on your quilts. And we can do things like put stencils on. So I've got a stencil that I've put onto here using pounce chalk. And in fact, I've got this one stitched out here, which I did a few weeks ago. Actually, no, this was for a demo with a customer. So that there is that design there. Probably in reverse. I've got it upside down. But that's that design. So you can pounce using chalk with the stencil and get a design on that you then follow this line, these lines, with your free motion, quilting from the front. That can be an edge-to-edge design. There are little reference lines for those. You can also do grids. So we could do a repetitive design using a grid design. Cindy Needham has some great ideas for doing those. And we did a class here with Swen Jeffrey, Handi Quilter ambassador from South Africa, on grids. So that's where you use squares or lines. So we can quilt from the front, free motion. And we can also quilt from the front using rulers. So you might have a domestic machine and you're using walking foot for most of your quilting. That's certainly what I did. Most of my quilting before I got a long arm was mostly to do with using a walking foot, stitching in the ditch, using a walking foot, stabilizing the quilt. So we can do ruler work. We use a deeper foot, which is what I've got on here, and we use a...
Liz?
Yep.
Couple of people suspecting sound issues. So you might want to...
Oh. I don't know why it's gone off again. I hope it hasn't been off since the beginning.
No, it hasn't. It's only just been reported.
Okay. I must have leant against something. Okay. Is it still on?
Yes.
Right. I'm not going to touch it. Okay. Can everybody...
should be okay now, but tell us if it goes again. You need to put it somewhere where I can see it, and then I can tell. Yeah, I know, but I've got the blouses long. I haven't got any pockets on these trousers. So we've got a ruler base here. Pete, can we see that? So the ruler base fits on to these lugs that you get supplied with the ruler base, and it goes on like that. And then we've got a nice stable base on which we can use rulers, 1/4 inch deep rulers, so that we can do straight lines, circles, ovals, whatever you like. Good. Okay. Sound is back.
So I wonder how long that was off for. Hopefully not too long. I was mid-flow. I'm always mid-flow though. Right. So that's ruler work. Free motion quilting, ruler work. And then we can also quilt from the back. So quilting from the back, we need design on the back. And our design on the back is called a pantograph. Pantograph, one of these printed designs, comes on a roll like this. And sometimes they have a corner so that you can easily do the nice corner if you're using it for borders. Otherwise, you just repeat this all the way down your quilt. Solid line for stitching, using the laser light, we'll show you in a second. And dashed lines is, as it says here, previous row. So if you come round the back here, we've added on rear handlebars to this little Moxie. And the way that it works is the laser light here, handlebars to stop and start machine, and what you would do is you'd trace your design using this laser light. This is the laser light. Sometimes it's not easy to see. The little red light is just here on this point. And I would use that as a guide for where to stitch.
Check your sound.
It's on?
Yeah. Okay. Still seems variable with somebody.
Oh. Okay. I don't know where to put it. Right. So, yeah, you use that to trace the design, which would then is reproduced on the front of the quilt. So you can see I did this here. I'm making Pete do all kinds of... So that's this design here. It's called Sassy. So that was that bit.
So you don't have to be artistic.
You don't. Proving extremely well that you do not have to be artistic to do this. Pantographs are great for finishing quilts quickly. You've got this line, the dash line is for alignment for every subsequent row, and it's brilliant for doing edge-to-edge quilting, where it's more about the piecing perhaps on your quilt than it is about the quilting. And one of our customers who came up to us at, this was at Duxford, and they said, you know, sometimes we see, the most amazing quilts, fantastic quilts, but I just know they're not the kind of quilts that I would do because they're just too dense. I don't like dense quilting. And I said, well, yeah, of course. I mean, you know, you've got pantographs and people can do much more widespread quilting. She said, but that doesn't always come over. When we see these fantastic quilts and at the quilt shows, we see such dense quilting. And a lot of us just don't want to do those kind of things. So perhaps we have not emphasized how the majority of our customers are doing this kind of more widespread work. Majority of our customers do not do it as a business. Probably 80% of our business is not to people who run a business of any kind. And these are figures that come as a bit of a surprise to some people because they think, well, you know, anybody who has this is going to be running it as a business. Absolutely not. It was never designed really for that. It was designed as an entry-level long arm. And a lot of our customers are just doing it for fun. They're just doing it so they finish their quilts off and they finish them and it's about their quilt and they want to do the whole lot. And that's really what it's about. And the fact it's edge to edge, great. Absolutely fantastic. And you don't have to do everything. And I mean, there are QITDA groups out there, Quilt It to Death Anonymous. So, you know, those are quilt groups out there, but that's not necessarily what you have to do.
And it's not what most people do.
It's not.
So Elizabeth Dunkley, who is one of our Pantograph Queen customers,
she is,
says that pantographs are still her favourite. So she's upgraded her machine to a bigger throat space machine, and she still loves pantographs.
And I love them too.
Me too.
You know, yes, you're really good at pantographs, Pete. And on that joint quilt that
I'm not very artistic, so.
That's not true. That's not true. You are sort of artistic. You are artistic. He's a photographer. He's got to be artistic. He's got a creative eye. So there we go. That's our movable machines. And I've put my pad down somewhere.
And of course, the Stumpy Quilter, who is online, says pantographs are awesome.
Yes.
Jackie.
And Jackie teaches people how to use an Amara, a Pontyberem in Wales, and does a fantastic job on showing people how easy it is to quilt their own quilt.
Go for an experience day with Jackie.
Yes.
You won't forget it. You'll absolutely love it.
She's probably nearly fully booked because she's so busy.
True. Yes, she did
she's
say
really
she's almost fully booked.
Almost fully booked. Amazing. And but that's the thing, isn't it? Is that what you're doing, Jackie, is you're enabling people to finish their own quilts, and that's what the long arms are about. That's why people end up getting one. So I'm just going to check. Still on, Pete. I haven't knocked it off yet. Right. Carolyn James, who comes and does teaching here, and she will be at Festival of Quilts. She's also a pantograph queen. And in fact, Carol Watson, who's got the Moxie with Pro Stitch Delight, Carol is doing a lot of her charity quilts are edge-to-edge designs. And then she does the most amazing free motion quilting as well. So we're going to walk through here. Oh, actually, no, we don't, because you've got a problem walking, haven't you, with that? It's very difficult for Pete. He does a great job, even though he's not got... Mind this, there's a late lead there, Pete. Mm-hmm. Right, this is...
Just come around this side.
Okay. I haven't really moved on very much from last week's power cut, got to be honest. This was all here last week. I haven't finished that quilt yet. Oh, this was lovely. I had such a nice time with Shirley with the Sweet 16 this week. And some of you might have seen the post where I had a little stop off en route to the David Austin Rose's place, which I've never been to before. It's absolutely fantastic. If you've not been, then you must go. I just picked up coffee and lunch and a couple of roses. So just a couple of roses, nothing serious. You know, there wasn't space in the car for anything more serious, unfortunately. Anyway, lovely Shirley. Are we allowed to say how old Shirley is?
No.
Okay. Shirley does not look her age and does not act her age because she's just so much fun. I don't know. I mean, just brilliant, absolutely brilliant. We had so much fun. And beautiful fruitcake, I have to say, Pete.
Let me put it this way. At shows, often people say to me, oh, I'm too old for one of these machines now. I'll be able to say in future, well, listen, Shirley is probably 15, 20 years older than you are. So. Yeah. And she's just got her first long arm.
She's just got her first long arm. I think it's brilliant, absolutely brilliant. And she gave me these, so I'm going to make some little things for these with these. I get something for Emily with those and something for my mum with that. Isn't that nice? Those done with her embroidery machine. But I think they're beautiful. I think that's so cute. So we had a lot of fun using the Sweet 16, and she'd gone for the insight table, which is what this is. So this is Sweet 16 with the insight table. Now, if you've got a Sweet 16, you might have the standard table. Anybody who's got a Sweet 16 from sort of 2014 onwards can upgrade to an insight table. And this is where we've got a sit down. I say sit down, I mean stationary. See, I've got to get it right as well. A stationary machine with these two magic eyes, and they read the fabric moving just like the encoders do in a similar sort of way. They're keeping track of how fast you're moving. So this section here is the bit that is unique to either the Sweet or the Capri, and this is the bit where, if I just lift this out, you'll see I'm in the way of it a bit, but see, this is the brains of it, is under here. There's a board under here, and these are the magic eyes. And this tells the machine, via these cables, how fast it's being moved. So what we can do is we put this in place, and then tighten it up, and then stitch away to our heart's content. So the Sweet 16 with the insight table is a really good way, in a small footprint, where it's a very easy transition from a domestic machine where you might feel like this one here. This is an Elna, and this is not a small machine. This is an 11-inch throat space machine, okay? But it's just, I mean, it's 5 inches less than the Sweet 16. So even with not many domestic machines are much bigger than 11 inches. And the Bonina I used to sew on was 6 7/8 inches. I measured it in frustration one time. 6 7/8. It was ridiculous trying to get a quilt under there. So the excellence that Elno, it's a lovely machine. It's great for piecing, great for doing like edging on things. But for free motion quilting, I'm sorry, a straight stitch machine built to do that job is always going to do a superior job and be easier. It is. And it's so much more of a pleasure. So we're just going to run through. We've got the the Sweet 16 here on an insight table, we can stand up at an insight table. I do not have to sit down. This can go much higher. I've just got a kind of halfway house here. But this is basically where I can see exactly what I'm doing. And some people prefer to stand up and do free motion quilting on a stationary machine. So this is a stationary machine and this is a stationary machine. I can stand up at this one. I can sit down at this one. I can add on tables. There's also a drawer that I can add on as well. And I can use all the feet that I can use on those movable machines on this. So what can we do on each of the machines? Free motion quilting, yes. Tick the movable and tick for the stationary machines. Ruler work, you can do it on here. You use the surefoot, that's the deeper ruler foot, but it is quicker and easier on a movable machine because you've got the ruler base, you're holding the ruler firm, and you're moving the machine. Okay, so it is, I've got to say, that on the whole, I can do most of the things on here, but when it comes to big circles and things, it is easier on a movable machine. So ruler work, yes, you can do it, but it is a bit easier on movable. Thread play, a lot of people who like to do thread play, so not like that which is programmed, but ones where you're doing it yourself. We had the lovely Cherry, who's an Infinity owner, she's just acquired one of these Sweet 16s to do free motion embroidery work, like literally stitching, like she does amazing work, really, really creative stuff. But she wanted a really, like a smaller machine where she's moving the fabric because it's more akin to kind of drawing, a bit like our customer Tina does on her Capri.
So just to explain, Cherry has the Infinity 26-inch movable machine, the largest movable machine that Handi Quilter manufactures.
Yep.
But she's also now purchased a Sweet 16 to do a slightly different job for what she needs it for.
And she didn't get the insight table. She kept with the manual because it's all about how she moves. Stitch length's irrelevant. So, you know, we can do machine embroidery on this sort of machine really easily. Manual mode, definitely on this. Yes, you can do it on the movable machines. Stitch regulation we covered. It's through the use of encoders, or in this case, these two magic eyes. Speed, you generally can quilt your quilts quicker on a movable machine than you can on a stationary machine, on the whole. Not everybody, but on the whole. Quilting from the back with pantographs, that is on a movable machine like I showed on the Moxie. That was not something you'd do on here. Computerized, so computerization using that tray, the Pro Stitcher Premium or Pro Stitcher Lite, that's on a movable machine as well. You can use all the feet on it. What about multiple projects? So say I am doing this one, I'm doing this quilt, like I showed last week, this quilt, still haven't finished it. And I want to go and do a table mat. That's fine, I just take it off, probably pull through the thread, same thread probably, glide thread, just pull it through. A minute. I mean, like literally I could do it in a minute. Very, very fast to change. But it's not a problem. If you stay there, Pete, I'll go and get, well, do you want to move over to there? If you want to change it on a movable frame, get another set of cloth leaders. And then we can mark where these cloth leaders were on those rails and put it back exactly. I would have basted the whole lot. So this is the one, I've only got to do the borders. I've nearly finished it. Very, very close to finishing. And this I could pop back on now. And then what I'll do is I'm going to put it on so it runs that way. I think I can get it on an 8-foot. I hope I can. Actually, it's quite long, isn't it? I might have to measure it. I was hoping I'd be able to do it. Rather than chunking, I want to do it from side to side. But listen, that's the cloth leaders. These cloth leaders, they stay on that quilt. It's basted onto 2 rails already by having gone down the entire quilt and put in some big basting stitches, stitching in the ditch, and then I can take it off and put it back on again. So still just as flexible, not quite as quick as a stationary machine. Right, back to over here.
I think that will go on an 8-foot frame, Liz. That doesn't look as if it's 100 inches wide to me.
76, isn't it? 76.
Oh yeah, 76 on an 8-foot frame, you're right. Yeah. I'll have to have a
Not
look.
sure. What about size? Pete's just mentioned size. So the most people who go for a Moxie tend to have an 8-foot frame, and a number of people do upgrade it to the 10-foot. That means you can quilt up to 76 inches wide on an 8-foot or 100 inches wide. It's a 4-rail frame. That means you don't have to baste it. All right, big plus. Everybody who's been using domestic machines for quilting knows that the basting is perhaps the least favourite element of the quilting process, and it probably stops a lot of people from ever completing their quilts as a result. So if you have a friend who's got a frame and they're happy to baste it for you, then that would be helpful, and they would be a very nice friend if they did that for you. But otherwise, you need a 4-rail frame so you don't have to baste. We do have the little foot frame, fits in a very small amount of space, 7 foot by 7 foot. And the little foot frame, you can basically take a basted frame and do quilts king size. And the same on this. You can quilt up to king size on this. You just be stacking it all up and just working an area at a time. So I think that's most of the things that I wanted to talk about. That, you know, the frame, the different types of frames, the fact that you can extend these frames. You can start with an 8-foot, you can extend it to a 10, you can go from a 12 down to an 8 in most cases. On the bigger frames, you just take out sections. So, you know, they're normally in like a 4-foot section or 2-foot section. So those are also possibilities, and you know, that gives you a lot more freedom if you downsize or upsize your accommodation. Perhaps get that garden room that you've always been longing for. Well, I hope that's been a useful summary. I do want to do like an infographic, and now I've kind of got it a bit more clearly down in my on my notes and in my head. I've already started doing it, but I just wanted to get it into a format that will make sense to people who are just starting out, perhaps looking at long arms. But the next step, once you've done this and perhaps watched this video, next thing is book an appointment at our showroom and we'll come and show you for real, and you can have a play on our long arms, and we would love to see you. So Pete, is there anything else to mention in this session? We've had quite a long little chat, but I think so, that's everything. Anything else from anybody who's commented or? Nope. Great. We will be back next week. Yes, we will. And we're going to have a lovely time up in to see Four More Sleeps, Christine. And we're looking forward to that very much. So have a wonderful weekend. Stay away from the thunderstorms. Unplug your machine if it's thunder and lightning, as we will be doing as well. And have a wonderful weekend, whatever you're doing, and happy quilting.